Let's talk to Paul Hawkins, who's in Romania again for us this morning. And this really is a crisis, isn't it, Paul, where some countries are really coping with this huge influx of refugees because it's more problematic for others.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Morning, Stephen. Morning, Bev. To give you an example, Poland, 1 million Ukrainians are now currently in Poland out of the 1.6 million that came across the border, and that means that Poland's population has grown by 2% in just 2 weeks. And we know from having spoken to locals in and around the border area when we were there a few days ago that they were worried about not so much the refugee registration centres, not so much about giving someone a bed to sleep for the night, but finding them permanent and semi-permanent homes. However, the situation in Moldova, which is a much smaller country, much poorer, not a member of the EU, not a member of NATO, they are really worried about the situation there. The Moldovan Foreign Minister, Nicu Popescu, said that the country is at breaking point. There are 100,000 Ukrainians in the country at the moment, and that means Moldova's population has grown by 4% in the last 2 weeks. So really difficult. And to give you an idea of what that would mean in the UK, if the UK population were to increase by 4%, that would mean 2.5 million Ukrainian refugees coming to the country in 2 weeks. So that gives you an idea of the scale of the problem that Moldova is facing with very little money there. They are a relatively poor country, and they have been doing some sterling work, doing the very best they can, but they're reaching the point now where they really need more international assistance. And they're also worried about the threat in Moldova from Russia, given it was formerly a part of the Soviet Union, and like Ukraine, it has aspirations to join the European Union. So they're worried that Vladimir Putin may turn next towards Moldova, potentially taking advantage of the situation in a little strip of land between Ukraine and Moldova called Transnistria, where there's a third of the population is ethnic Russian, and there are already 1,300 troops there. He may use that as an excuse to then turn towards Moldova. So they're worried there about the situation militarily and politically from Vladimir Putin, and they're also worried about trying to deal with the humanitarian situation right now.
Paul, you're doing an amazing job this weekend, and we've seen you in Hungary, in Poland, and now in Romania. How do those countries compare in terms of their readiness to accept these people?
I would say that all three countries are, so in Poland, so they are coping very, very well with the humanitarian situation on the border. As I say, in the first few days, hours, and the first week that Ukrainians arrive in the country, they're coping very well. But as I said, semi-permanent and permanent accommodation and more longer-term plans are more difficult, and that's why people are having to go further afield to places like Germany, France, Spain, etc., and possibly even the UK with this new scheme that the government has announced this morning. In Hungary, the registration centres for refugees tended to be further away from the border, and there was some criticism of the Hungarian authorities that they were spending too much time trying to check visas and do the paperwork there. But Hungary's been a country that's very anti-refugee, anti-immigration. They've dismantled their asylum system, really, so there are only 2 asylum reception centres in the country at the moment, and they've had to kind of rebuild it in a very short space of time so they can process that paperwork at the border. But refugees are then taken away from there to registration centres further away. Here in Romania, it's similar to Poland, as you can see from around me, the tents that have sprung up near the border. It's a similar situation there, and here they don't have the numbers of people that they do in Poland, and also the people that come here, 80% of them are transiting on to other countries as well. So Romania, Hungary and Poland, they're all dealing with it in their own way, but this situation is only going to get worse. The UN says that 4 million people eventually are going to leave Ukraine. That number could go higher, and they all need somewhere to go in the short term and possibly the longer term, because we don't know where this war is going and when it's going to end.